Hello and welcome to the Cove. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Luciani from the Cove team, and today we're at the Victoria Barracks Sergeants Mess in Sydney. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't downloaded the Cove app and turned notifications on, or followed the Cove on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter or Forcenet, then please consider doing that now, as these are the best way to keep across what's happening at the Cove. Today's Cove Talk is balancing demanding civilian and military careers, and our guest is Major Mark Beretta. At the end of this presentation, you, the audience, will have the chance to ask Major Beretta some questions. You can text your questions to 0428 222 399 anytime from now until to the end of the questions, and that number will appear periodically on the screen during the talk. Mark Beretta is a popular television sports presenter. He's also an author, engineer, 10 times Australian water ski champion and marathon bike rider. As a current presenter on 7 Network's Sunrise program, he's watched by almost 500,000 Australians every day. In 2019, at the age of 53, Mark joined the Australian Army Reserve as a public affairs officer and is currently posted to headquarters of the 1st Division. In addition to his morning TV and other broadcasting commitments, including major events like Bathurst, the Commonwealth Games and Olympic Games, Mark still generally commits around 100 days per year to his reserve service. Now he balances his reserve and civilian career commitments, plus his views on reserve service in Army is what we're going to explore today. Mark, it's a pleasure to have you and thanks for joining us at the Cove.
Sir, thanks very much. I prefer to ask the question, so I'll have a go and see how we go.
Well, you're probably better at it. Mark, you're on top of your game in your civilian career after 30 years in broadcasting and at the age of 53. What's your story behind joining the Army?
It's something I'd always wanted to do. When I went through school at St Joey's College in Geelong, I did Army Cadets and really enjoyed it. Probably got the bug there. And just as life went on, I just took a different path. You know, in Year 12, I had the brochures for Portsea and Duntroon, and I'd read and I was excited and I was ready to go. And I just got involved in sport and this radio thing at the time. And that led me through to Triple M and Channel 10, Channel 7, and it's just kept going. You know, sometimes you get on a path to something and it just all unfolds in front of you. And that's the way I went. And I emceed the Legacy Ball in Brisbane, which people who've been in Brisbane may be familiar with that. It's a legendary night out. And ended up at a place called the James Squires Pub at 2 a.m. in the morning with a group from the Ball. And there happened to be some recruiters there. And I told my story about how I'd always wanted to join. And I said, but obviously now I'm too old. I've missed my moment. And they said, well, as a matter of fact, you're not too old. See you Monday. And then that was it. Went through Defence Force recruiting, went through that process and ended up becoming a public affairs officer, which I have thoroughly loved ever since. Terrific.
Good to hear the recruiters are doing their job at 2 a.m. in the morning. Think back to the training that you've had in Army, both the all-corps training that you've had as an SSO and also your public affairs training. Did that change you as a person or as a media professional? And what has Army given you that's new?
Exactly what I'd hoped for, to be honest. I wanted a broader perspective, and I'd been in my job, and like a lot of reservists and SSOs, you're in your profession for a long time, and you become not comfortable, but competent and under control with it. And you get to a point where you sort of look for something else. You know, you want something to be a challenge, but something that you can take something away from as well. And I think that's where reserve service has something very special, because you do get that, you get something that you're going to get something back from. You get something that you're going to get a good feeling putting into. You know, the whole notion of service since I've joined has been something that I wasn't as aware of beforehand. But I understand now how strong that is and what that means to everyone in uniform. And to me, that's really special. So I got much more back than I'd ever imagined. So it's been, it has been quite for me, it's been a tremendous journey. You know, I really enjoyed it. Met some incredible people. Their dedication to their work inspires me every day. And I'm honestly really proud every time I put this uniform on. It means a lot to me.
Terrific. Many reservists with a significant civilian skill set want to do something completely different in the Army. Why did you choose to follow the public affairs stream? Why not be an infantry officer or soldier or a gun number or something that is just a break away from the norm?
Yeah, exactly the process I went through, and I think everyone goes through. I wanted to go into infantry because I wanted the full experience. I wanted to do what I'd always wanted to do. But I sort of realised that maybe I had a skill that could be useful. And if I wasn't using that skill, that may be a little bit frustrating. So I've met reservists who do all sorts of things. I've met the lawyers who are truckies out on the weekend and people from all sorts of backgrounds. Some who follow their specialisation, their skill, and a lot who don't. And both are equally happy. You know, I think the thing about being a reservist is that you come into it highly motivated. You know, you're coming into it because you really want to do it. it's something that maybe you have put off from earlier in life that you want to fulfill, as in my case, or you just realise that there's something bigger in the world that you can give back to, that you can help people, and Army certainly gives you the chance to do that. So there are a lot of positives I find from reserve service, and everyone who I've spoken to along my courses and getting involved and keeping in touch with my peers, we probably feel the same way. It's a pretty special experience. It's incredibly overwhelming coming in, to be honest, because you're coming into an organisation that is very drilled at what it does, and you've got to get yourself up to speed and step into that machine. So that, from a reserve point of view, that's really challenging, to come in cold and try and get your head around what's happening and speak a brand new language with a whole bunch of new terms, learn about ranks and people and who does what and how this whole machine works is really daunting. But it is hugely rewarding the day that it all starts to click. And for me, that probably took a couple of years to really feel that I had a bit of a handle on things. And to be honest, I probably don't fully yet. I'm still learning so much. And it's one of the things I love about it. Every time I go somewhere, I can pull out some more information, and I will grab people and have a good chat to them. And I've done that in the room a couple of times tonight, just learning what people do. And everyone's got such a fantastic job, and we're so proud of the work that they do. And I think that's one of the great things. If you're engaged with what you're doing and you're proud of the work that you do, and as a result of all that, you do a great job at it, the whole thing works. The whole thing just gets better and better. So I'm a big fan of Army and reserve service and what it gives to the community and what everyone gets back from it as well.
Yeah, fantastic. So 3 years in the Army now. What sort of things has the Army got you doing in your public affairs role, noting your broadcasting background?
Yep. A lot of things I've really enjoyed. I've media trained on pre-command course. I've done a lot of media training, taking people in front of camera to just get them more comfortable with being in front of camera, because, as we know, it's a little bit of a different experience. And just interview skills, that sort of thing. I've done a lot of MC work. I've done the regular public affairs stuff, dealing with PAGs and all that sort of thing. And done a lot of courses. So I've done my SSO course, where I learned to carry my sheets over my shoulder at 6 a.m. and make my bed really well, which my wife has been thrilled about. And then, yes, that was SSO. Then I did public affairs course, which was great, because you always think, you think when you've been in a business a long time that you know it, and that, you can't learn a lot more about it. But it was great to sort of step back and just see it from a different perspective, and just learn it. I was learning it from the other end. Like, I've always come at it from the media guy, and I think that's the way everything should be done, is down that line. But now I'm looking at it from the public affairs point of view, what it means, the way the message is presented, the impact it can have on people and organisations. And so that for me has been a great learning. And from there I did a captain's course and major's course at the moment. So yes, I'm an expert on IMAPs, if you need to know about IMAPs.
Okay, keep that in mind, thanks. More generally, what do you think that reservists bring to Army as a whole?
Yep. A specialist set of skills. You probably, for the specialist service operators that I've worked with, they are so specific in what they do, whether they be doctors, lawyers, media professionals, nurses, whatever. They're highly trained in that area. So this is what I think is really good about Army, is you grab that person and that skill and you transplant them into the organisation. Not many organisations can do that, and you have them there at call for when you need them. It's really quite clever. So that skill is brought in as needed, and I think it works both ways. For me, it's given me a lot of skills that I didn't have before. Army for me has taught me a lot about teamwork, a lot about structure and organisation, and management skills. Like, I've worked in Channel 7 for 28 years. I have never been on a training course. Like, we have not done a training course in 28 years. I don't have a performance review. It comes at 9:15 every morning when the ratings come in, and you either got your job or you don't.
Yeah, right.
Simple as that. So to have someone sit you down and say, look, here's a structure, here's your rota progression, here's what happens, and have someone review you, every year is fantastic, because I think we all need that feedback, and certainly that's something that in my profession, my employer, people would really benefit from. And it just lets you know whether you're heading down the right path of what's required or you're not. And not every organisation gets that. But I think Army has defined that model really well. And having the mechanic there is a good thing. Now, I understand that not everyone's thrilled about the system all the time, but it is a system, and it's a structure, and it's there to work within. So That for me has been, one of the good things. I think just the whole idea of working in teams has been refreshing, because again, when you, especially for specialists, you work so far down your road, you're getting this narrow channel that you're heading down, and you don't have many people working around you after a while. You end up sort of down the road by yourself a bit. And when you come back and you're starting again at an area that is not your expertise, and you've got to pick it up, and the only way that you can do that and you can learn it is by the people around you. So all of a sudden you're reliant on the team. You bring your skill into the team when it's needed, but so does she and so does he, and the whole thing works really well. And I found the uniform and army a great leveler for people. For me, when I walk in here, I am Major Beretta, and I do that job in public affairs, and whatever else doesn't matter.
And you've walked the same path that every other SSO public affairs officer has as well.
Sheets over shoulder at 6 in the morning. For a parade in the rain.
Hey, I mentioned in the intro that you do about 100 days a year for Army. How did you find that you needed to adjust your work and personal routines to fit that kind of commitment into what is already a busy lifestyle and a busy job?
Yeah, it's hard, no doubt about it. I think it's the same for every reservist. You're juggling all the time. But I think you do what you want to do and you do what you like to do. And if the work is satisfying and you're enjoying it and you're getting something back from it, you put more time into that. I haven't had any trouble, and I'm lucky I've got a really supportive employer. Kerry Stokes, our chairman, has been a great supporter of Army and Defence, and my bosses were really thrilled with the idea that I was coming to be a reservist. So having a supportive work environment is a great thing.
Where do they draw the line between the flexibility that they will give you and the flexibility that they don't?
Yep. I haven't hit that line yet. I've taken defence leave to do my courses and defence leave when I need it. I've never had anything knocked back to say, you need to be here instead. But I manage that as well. I won't go away, obviously, when Olympic Games are on or Com Games are on. I will be where my employer needs me. And it's worked out well for me with my reserve life that when I'm needed there, I can find times when I'm needed there that don't conflict with where I need to be somewhere else for 7. So far that's worked out well. But as much as a supportive employer, you need a supportive manager inside Army as well. I think that's a big thing. Reservists can offer a lot, and properly managed, probably 100% more. I think if you can find tasks that they can take away and do in time and work off site on things, that works really well, because often you'll find yourself during the day with maybe a spare 30 minutes or an hour, and you can punch into an activity or a task that you need to do. So if you're prepared to manage a reservist like that, I think an important thing too is to sit down with your reservist and say, hey, so how do we make this work for both of us? How do I get the best out of you? What can I do to help you, manage your time and what you've got to do? Because I think probably one thing I've found in the reserve workforce is that people are highly motivated. They're professionals at what they do. They've reached a level because of their work ethic and their skills and their commitment. But they want something more, and this is fulfilling something else for them. And they will turn that same energy and that same intellect and that same commitment into this job if you can help them steer through it. They will give you the energy, but don't bash them over the head and make it hard for them, I think is probably the message. Do what you can to help your reservists, and I'm sure that you'll get a result and an output from that person that would be pretty impressive, hopefully.
Yeah, that's fantastic insight advice. I think that's particularly for the ARA managers who aren't, or those that aren't intuitive or have experience intuitive. I think that's great advice, because the way you manage your reserves needs to be different to the way that you manage your ARA staff. And I think we need to remember that the reserve service is not their number one priority; it's their second priority, as it is for you. So
so it probably works both ways too. We understand that we're hard to manage, that we're a different requirement. So I think most reservists are aware of that, and they understand the pressures that they can put on their managers who are trying to work out how to best use them and manage their time. So but I think that the best thing is to sit down and have that discussion and have it regularly. Have it every 6 months. How you going? How you keeping up with what you need to do? Are you able to keep your time up? How do we get more out of you? And do you want to give more? I think is the big thing too, because quite often people want to do more. I've certainly found that with a lot of the medical professionals that I've come across. They want to do more. They want to do more time. So the question is how to manage that and get that out of them.
Yeah, okay. Sort of linked to that, we know we've got some staffing shortfalls in the Army currently, and we're looking to recruit a bit more. And the last 2.5 years of domestic operations have really reinforced to Army how important the reserve is. Not only those who are the 2 div type reservists, but also the ones and twos, the specialists that are in the more full-time part of the organisation. What do you think motivates reservists, and how can we make sure that over a career that they have a positive experience, a meaningful experience where it's a fair exchange between the individual and Army?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think exchange is a good description because that's what it is. It's got to go both ways. I think making them part of the contribution, if you know what I mean. If there's activity going on, to have them as part of that activity makes a big difference. To feel that their time is worthwhile. We all want to feel that our time is worthwhile, and to have reservists parked out and not involved in the tasks is probably not a great situation. So the way the tempo has been over the last few years that I've been involved, there's been plenty to do, and as reservists we've been engaged in that as well, which has been fantastic. I think just keeping them in the loop, keeping people involved in what's happening. Training is a great thing, getting people up to speed, because the more reservists come up to speed and can integrate more seamlessly into the Army family, that helps the process. So training is a big part of it, I think. But I think the key motivation for people is to be actually doing something. We all join to do something.
Something meaningful.
Exactly. Yeah. We want to serve. We want to feel that feeling that regular Army are feeling as well of service. So that's, to me, that word of service has been something that I wasn't aware of when I stepped in, but has become so important. And I see that in so many people. And when I talk to people, reserves and regular Army, about it, that when that word comes up, it just lights people's eyes up. They get service. It's much more a motivator than I ever imagined.
How has the reaction to your reserve service been in your workplace? Not so much with the employer, but more with your peers and the people you work with.
Yeah, they're really impressed. Actually, it's great. I was surprised because I didn't know what to expect, and it's a tough thing because you're sort of saying to your work family that you've spent so much time with, and you're supposed to be 100% committed to. Look, I really love you guys, and you're great, and we work well, but I need to go and do this over here now, and have go and do this thing that I've always wanted to do. So it's interesting, but it amazed me how supportive people are, and respectful, and proud of what you do. I think that's it's an amazing thing, and everyone in uniform, I think, would appreciate that feeling that that people support you is a really great thing, and it makes a big difference. I think it empowers you to do more. I think it empowers you to train. It empowers you to just be more involved. I think having support of your workplace and your peers and your family is such an important thing. As we all know, family's a big part of what we do, and you don't do anything without the support of your family. And if you're swimming against the tide, if you're doing it against them, so you've got to get them convinced first. But I think the amount of support for what Defence does, and I think sometimes too, regular Army forgets how much the people of Australia respect Army and what Army does. I think when you've been in for a long time, you sometimes lose track of that. I'm surprised sometimes that people don't have a better handle on what the community thinks about Army and how respectful and the admiration for people in uniform. It's a big thing, and I'm lucky enough because I step between the two that I see it a lot.
Yeah, terrific. I'm really pleased that you see that, because me, who's been in for over 20 years now, possibly loses sight of that a little bit sometimes, and we do need to remember that. Mark, before we go to just some questions, which I'm sure we've got from either the audience here at Vic Barracks Sergeant's Mess or on the Cove phone, can you share with us the highlight of your military career so far, and also the highlight of your civilian career?
Sure. Probably highlight of my military career working wise was emceeing the Chief of Army's handover last week. For me that was a big thing and a wonderful experience to be part of, and something I never imagined I'd be part of. And my other one was probably surviving SSO course, because it was touch and go there for a while. But a great experience, because I think we join as reservists. You join for the Army experience, and boy, you get it. And it's great. We expect that, and it really gives you a taste of Army life and recruit life, and it was a good reawakening to I'll call it a grounding. It was very grounding, which was good. So. And working life, I've been to 13 Olympic Games now with 7. So an Olympic Games in my area of work is the ultimate. So I thought if I could get to one day, that'd be great. So I've been to 13, summer and winter, done every different role probably that you can do at an Olympic Games. I've commentated sports. I've hosted the most watched moment in Australian television, which was when Kathy Freeman ran in Sydney 2000. So my career peaked 22 years ago. It's been smaller audiences ever since. But they'd probably be my couple of moments.
We do have a couple of questions coming in from the online audience. We'll start off with, and the first is from Colonel Trent Bernard, who's Colonel training at 9 Brigade with Intuitive. Mark, having been recruited in recent years for your specialist capabilities, what advice would you give to others who are considering a late entry into the ADF? And what do you think the ADF could do to attract other similar professionals? That's a great question.
Yep, thanks, sir. I think, firstly, I absolutely would encourage people to join. I'd say do it before, sooner rather than later. I wish I'd done it probably 5-10 years ago, or 5 or 10 years earlier. Because I think I'd be so much further down the road now and so much more skilled than what I am at the moment, still learning so much. How do you encourage people? Look, to be honest, you know this, but the Defence Force recruiting process can sometimes be long and arduous, and I think in a competitive world where we are in the moment for talent, and particularly in this market at the moment, it is really competitive for staff and talent. And if you're letting people slip through the gaps and taking too long to snare them, they're going to grab something else. Yeah. So I think speeding that process up would be a great practical step. I don't know how you do it, and I'm sure there are incredible challenges.
I know that working on that problem as we speak.
Sure.
Yep.
Having said that, it's probably the best recruiting process I've ever come across. It is so thorough and so good at sitting you down and saying you would be good at this, this, and this. I'd encourage kids who have an interest in defence to just go through the process, just to get a feel for what's possible. But as far as getting specialists in, a lot of it is peer generated. It's word of mouth, because those specialists tend to work in such a, as I said, a streamlined area, and they work amongst themselves. But I think that's getting out and about. Certainly amongst the professionals from law and medicine and nursing and public affairs that I've spoken to. People talk at that level. And if they've had a good experience, they'll be the best recruiters. So make sure they have a good experience. Send them out as recruiters. I think we could do more just to spread the word on what reserve service is. We've had as far as I've ever seen, a very generic TV ad campaign, and I love TV ads. They're wonderful. They pay the bills. But it's somehow got to get people more information about what it is and what's involved, what the commitment is, what you get back out of it. And I think something like that is happening at the moment.
I think we've got a question from in the room. Do we? Anyone want to ask a question of Mark Beretta here at the Vic Barrack Sergeants Mess? No? Okay, have we got any more online? We're good. I think we're pretty close to running out of time anyway, Mark.
Thanks,
Mark. Thank you very much for coming and joining us on the Cove today. That's some fantastic insight. I think particularly what you said about how to manage reservists and the unique capabilities that they bring to make sure that that they have a fulfilling career and a fulfilling exchange, I think is really important. So thank you very much for coming on the Cove. Thank you very much for joining us in the Army over the last few years. It's been fantastic having you, and hopefully we'll see a bit more of you on the Cove, sitting in this chair rather than the other way around.
You're gonna put me out of a job.
No, I'm not. I do have a limited edition 2022 Cove coin to say thank you very much, and one of our fancy leather notebooks. Thanks very much for joining us.
You don't get those at Channel 7, sir. That's right. Don't get anything really at Channel 7.
Look, before we go, just a reminder to follow the Cove on either through the app, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or ForceNet. Keep across what's going on at the Cove. There's plenty of good content and plenty of Cove talks and activities coming up in the next couple of months. If you haven't seen it yet, have a look at the 2022 Cove Challenge, which we've just completed, which is on the Cove homepage. Thanks again for everyone out there for joining us at the Cove.